Hello, everyone. Welcome back to Newfound Happy Hour, episode 3. I'm not going to have much of an intro today because me and my guest actually sat down for over an hour talking and I had to condense it a little bit. So today I'm speaking with my friend Allison Stoodley, who currently lives in Calgary. We're just talking a bit about our friendship and how we became friends and how we've grown since then. We talk a little bit about growth, just talking about relationships, dating in Newfoundland versus other provinces, and just how getting out of your comfort zone in any situation can kind of make you more comfortable in yourself in the long run. So yeah, we have a really good conversation, and I just want to say a lot of it is really positive. Both of us are really positive people, and we're always trying to see the good in everything and celebrate everything. And I know not everybody is like that, which is perfectly fine. Everybody's different. But if you find the positivity is overpowering, like we do talk about it at the end, that it doesn't mean that there aren't things going on in each of our lives or that we haven't been through anything. It's just really choosing the mindset that you want. And yeah, we touch on that at the end a little bit. So I'll introduce her now. She has a business degree from MUN. She works for Suncor. If she's not being a fancy businesswoman, she's writing, or she's at the cabin hiking and boating, or the next second you'll see her all dressed up on George Street or downtown Calgary right now. And when she moved back to Newfoundland during the pandemic and we started hanging out a lot, some of my friends were like, how do you and Allison even know each other? And here it is. Love it. Yeah, so you're from Grand Bank. You moved to town for MUN.
Yeah.
You moved to Toronto. You moved back to St. John's. Then you moved to Calgary, which is where you are now.
Yeah.
I think we're going to save career talk for a whole other episode because we could talk forever about being young women in business, especially like with your job moving so much for it and everything. So we'll save that for another time.
I think that could be a whole episode in itself. Like, I'd love to talk about that with people, but it could be enough information to, like, make it a whole episode.
Yeah. I think today we're just going to talk about, like, getting out of your comfort zone and how, like, moving away has helped you do that.
Yeah.
And, like, socially and personally. I mean, I guess to start, like, we always talk about how the smallest decisions or, like, things that you do on a whim can change your whole life.
Yeah.
And like your whole relationship or your whole job or your whole summer, like,
yeah.
Which is kind of what happened to us, which is how we became so close again.
Yeah.
So, I mean, there's kind of two stories of how we became friends, because there's the story of how we met and then there's the story of how we actually became friends.
Yeah.
So can you tell everyone how we met?
Okay. So how did we meet? Back in 2018, I'd been going through a really bad breakup, one of those ones where you actually think you might die. It's funny when I look back on it now because I was, 22 maybe, and thought the world was over because my boyfriend had broken up with me, which is funny now, but at the time it really feels so bad. But I didn't have a huge social life at that point. And I knew another girl from the Burin Peninsula in Newfoundland that was also going through a breakup. And so I had messaged her on Facebook because that's what you do in Newfoundland. You all just kind of know each other, friends of friends. I wrote her and said, hey, I heard you're going through a breakup. Same. Like, let's get a drink sometime. Just trying to put out feelers to make some new friends and get back to a social life. And so anyways, she ended up inviting me to her birthday party. But I knew I wasn't going to know anybody there. I hardly knew her and I didn't know anyone else. So I was debating the whole day if I was actually going to go to the party. And I remember being at my uncle's house for dinner that evening. And I'm like super depressed, trying to be happy, enjoy my time with my family and decide what I'm going to do for the evening. And I said to my uncle, I have 3 options for tonight. I'm invited to an all-girls birthday party, but I don't know any of the girls. My brother and his girlfriend are going to a movie and they invited me. Or I could just go home and go to bed because it's been a long week and I don't feel great. And I remember plain as day, he said, well, the movie's going to be in the theater for another few weeks, for sure. You can sleep anytime. Go to the party. And for some reason, it just it's like a switch went off my head and was like, Go to the frickin' party,
Yeah.
Allison. So I showed up all by myself with my bottle of wine. I remember walking into Jill's living room. Didn't know anybody. But that's when I became really good friends with her, with Kaylee, with a bunch of girls. And that's the first night I met you. So that's when we all started to hang out.
Yeah. And I was there because I worked with a couple of them at Spring. And Kristen was there. And like, I'm friends with Kristen through. That's a whole other story of how I'm friends with Kristen.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's so funny how things work out.
Well, I think it's so funny because
if you hadn't have gone, and if I hadn't have gone, and if like she hadn't have also been going through a breakup,
like if we weren't both
it's like
going
because of one party,
yeah,
and one good night that we had,
exactly,
we just kept going out and kept in touch.
We kept doing that for months, like from then on, like February 2018 until spring or summer, whenever I moved out of Newfoundland, like we were all just partying, having so much fun, and that's when I got over the breakup, and that's when I got so many of my best friends. Like, it almost makes me emotional when I think about it, because I'm like, if I would have just went to the movie that night, I don't even know what movie it was.
Yeah.
But it just shows I have one decision, you know?
Yeah. Yeah, it's crazy. And that's how I think about how, like, we became close again, because obviously you moved away in end of 2018.
Yeah, so like I met you guys in February, and then I moved early September because my job was starting in September. I accepted a job in Toronto.
Right. And then you had to come home because of COVID.
Yeah.
And I remember it must have been before you moved in with Kelsey.
Yeah.
That we were all going out, and I was like, yeah, come out with us. And then we had gone out a couple times, and then you moved in with Kelsey, and then she brought her friends to the next event, and a girl group was made.
Exactly. And I think that's like, I mean, that's probably how it happens a lot of times, but that's definitely how it happened in Newfoundland for me several different times. It's like you just bring your friends, they bring their friends, then all of a sudden you're all friends. And I think that's why I feel like I know every girl in St. John's. Like, you know, it's not that big, and you just all become friends with each other's friends. So.
Yeah, and that was such a weird time because no one was coming in, no one was coming out. So it's not like your friends from home were coming home, and it's not like you could go travel.
Yeah, exactly.
And it's not like it was the same group. So everyone would be out all the time, and then you would notice that, oh, that group is always out. And then you just start mingling with them, and then suddenly they're inviting you to their place, and someone's birthday party, and there is a lot of intermingling between a lot of the friend groups here for sure.
Oh my god, big time. But I love that. Like, you can always make plans, you can always be invited somewhere. It's nice to include everyone. So that's something I love about Newfoundland. And it was great to spend the pandemic there and be able to do that.
Yeah, we really had the best time. Most of us were single.
Yeah, which made it so fun.
And all different stages of being single, but I think at that point, we were all not sad.
No, we weren't.
And we were saying yes to everything, and we just wanted to be around each other and do all the things because we were finally over it all.
Yeah. So my breakup had been at like, I don't know, end of 2017, something like that. And then I finally got over it sometime in 2018. But the pandemic was 2020. So by then, I was living a great life, like loving being on my own. I was like super sure of who I was and what I wanted, and just happy being single. So it was fun to spend the pandemic just work during the day, spend time with the girls during the night, especially because Newfoundland at that point was so safe and we could do those things. So
yeah, that's the thing too. Like, we were so lucky when it came to COVID because no one was coming in and bringing it here for that whole summer.
Well, exactly. That first summer of 2020, like, we had no cases ever. So we were spending all of our time at bars when all my friends that were still in Toronto, like, would have to see their friends outside in a park if they even did that.
Yeah, we were so lucky for that.
We really were. That was fun.
Yeah, at that time, like, I was happy and, like, not sad or anything, but I was still very freshly single.
Yeah.
And so I wasn't 2 years single then. I'm 2 years single now.
Yeah.
But, and me now versus me then is very different. So, yeah, like, we were all on, I guess we really were all on different stages of figuring out what that looks like.
Yeah, totally.
And that's why we became such good friends, and like, we're still good friends.
Yeah.
Even though some people have gotten into relationships now and in relationships and out of them.
Mm-hmm.
I've remained single the whole time, so
if you're listening to this, go to her Instagram DMs.
Yeah, nothing new to report on my end. So I guess a lot of what we're talking about today is getting out of your comfort zone. So when you had to leave then, because we had all gotten pretty comfortable here with the same group of people.
Yeah.
And so your office didn't go back to Toronto. They changed their headquarters to Calgary.
Right.
So then not only were you moving back to Toronto where you had been for a little bit, but you were going to a brand new city.
Mm-hmm.
So how was that for you after being in such an isolated place during the pandemic?
Yeah. So, talking about comfort zones, like I love to do that because I think that like being in an uncomfortable situation and putting yourself outside of your comfort zone, that's what makes us grow and gives us the best life experiences. So right back to the night I went to the party when I met you guys, that was putting myself out of my comfort zone. And I feel like from there I was more comfortable with doing that. So then when I moved to Toronto all by myself, back in 2018, I didn't really feel that afraid. I just like jumped on in and went, and it was so much fun. But then flash forward a couple years, go back to Newfoundland where my family is, my friends, everyone I love lives there, and it was super safe. I spent 16 months there during the pandemic. That really made me comfortable. I did not want to leave because it was safe. There wasn't many COVID cases, and just everything I love about Newfoundland, like I had it every day, which was so nice. So then when I learned that if I wanted to keep my job, I had to leave again and go to Calgary, I resisted it. Like I did not want to go. I was like, no way am I moving further west. Like I've already tried Ontario. I'm back in Newfoundland. I love it here. I want to be here. But then the more you think about it, I really love my career and I wanted to stay with the company I'm with. So I was like, okay, what's the worst that can happen? Like I'm just going to go to another new city. I know a couple people there, so it's going to be, better than Toronto. I knew no one there. So yeah, I feel like I dived right into it. Like I was sad to leave everyone behind, but as soon as I got to Calgary, I just got into a groove in a new life here. And I'm like, if I'm going to be here, I'm going to fully embrace it. So out here, that means learn to ski, go hike in the mountains, be outdoorsy. Like when in Rome, like if I'm going to be here, I'm going to do it all. So yeah, that's what I did. I've learned to ski. I've made a bunch of friends. I'm going to Calgary Flames games all the time. Like I'm going to go to the Stampede, whatever Calgary has to offer. I'm just going to take it because I think that's what life's all about.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Do the thing you're supposed to do in the place you're supposed to do it.
Yes, in that book you gave me when I moved. What's that book called?
Shout out to What I Was Doing While You Were Breeding. It's a book that I read while I was in Europe, and I recommend it to all my friends, and I gave it to Allison when she moved away. It's
such a good book. It really just talks about, like, if you're going to be somewhere, then do what they do there, and that's what I'm doing, so I'm like a cowboy or something now.
Yeah. Something of a cowgirl.
I need to get some cowboy boots.
Yeah, I have some. I was supposed to go to the Stampede in summer 2020, so I bought these really nice extra cowboy boots from Aldo, and I did not get to wear them, obviously.
Well, you'll have to come.
And they're so nice. I think I might come up in August. That's going to be a to be determined.
Yes, I hope you do.
Based on WestJet prices.
Oh my God, yes. Calgary is like such a fun city. I want all my friends to come visit here. I think people in Newfoundland, if they're going to travel within Canada, you're quick to just go to Toronto because it's like the hub and, big and exciting. Yeah. But Calgary is surprisingly really, really fun. Like I'm pleasantly surprised with what this city has to offer.
Yeah. I found it to be a lot cleaner than I expected. And a lot closer to some things, too. Because when I was there in the fall, when I came to visit you, we ended up going to Vegas because it was just a quick 2-hour flight.
Well, exactly. It's so
and we didn't
easy to
plan
travel.
that.
No.
Yeah.
No.
That's an example of something on a whim. Like, Marg texted me, and she was like, what do you think about Vegas in 3 weeks?
Let's go.
Sure.
And that was so much fun.
So easy.
Yeah. That's a good thing, too, about living off the island of Newfoundland, because I think the most expensive and hardest thing about traveling is getting off of Newfoundland. Like once you get to Toronto or you're in Calgary, anywhere else in the country, it's cheaper and easier to get anywhere. It's just so expensive to leave Newfoundland.
Yeah. Yeah, it's so true. So you were in Toronto for how long?
I lived in Toronto for, I guess it was about a year and a half. Like I was supposed to live there for much longer, but the pandemic, once that hit in March of 2020, and we started working from home, I worked from my condo for about 2 weeks. And then my leader at work was like, I think this is going to go on for a little bit longer than 2 weeks. You might as well just go to your real home. Like just go to Newfoundland. So I went with one suitcase and thought I was gone for a month. I remember one of my like mentors at work, he said, I'll see you when you're back from the Rock in a few months. And I was like, what? He's crazy. It's not going to be a few months. I went to Newfoundland for 16 months.
Yeah. Yeah, it's wild.
But yeah, so to answer your question, I was only really living there for about 1.5 years, I guess. Yeah. It felt like much longer.
And then...
Yeah. And you were single the whole time there. I know you haven't been single that long in Calgary, but you do have a lot of friends there and stuff. So
yeah.
I don't know. I've only visited Calgary and visited Toronto.
Yeah.
So I don't really know. I was just there for a short amount of time. But what are some of the differences you've noticed in dating in Toronto versus Calgary versus Newfoundland?
So
either your experiences or your friends.
Yeah, for sure. So in Toronto, I didn't really date much the 1.5 years I was in Toronto. The first, year that I was there, I was just trying to figure out who I was and what I wanted in life and heal from other heartbreaks. Like I had no interest in talking to men at all. And actually, when I was thinking about what I would say on your podcast, I remembered a quote that you said to me one time about when you leave downtown, a lot of girls like to go home, find a man for the night, whatever. And you're like, but sometimes you just got to go home with the taco. So like get in bed with a taco. That was me in Toronto. Like I didn't even look at men, to be honest. Some of my friends did.
I stand by that.
Yeah. Like I just was in a place where I didn't even want like a casual thing. I didn't want anything. I would go party with a bunch of friends that I made in Toronto. And at the end of the night, I would Uber Eats McDonald's to my condo. It'd be hanging on the doorknob when I get there. I'd eat it in bed and I was happy. Like that's all I wanted. So I can't really speak personally about dating in Toronto. I've heard it can be hard, especially downtown Toronto, because you have a lot of like party guys and, the promoters. And if you're going to the clubs and you like going out, which is what I did when I lived there, you're not really meeting the type of guys that you want to make a life with. That's right. But I have friends that date in downtown Toronto and there's men that have great jobs that are like investment bankers and accountants and like great people downtown Toronto. I'm sure if I was in a better place and wanting to date, then I could have had a good experience in Toronto. It's such a big city. Right. I mean, there's all sorts of types of people. So yeah, so I can't speak a lot to the Toronto dating scene. Dating in Newfoundland is a nightmare. It's so
just
hard.
A little bit.
Oh my God. I remember I made a tweet one time when I was on Tinder in Newfoundland. And I said, oh my God, I'm on Tinder. And when I'm swiping, it's like ex-boyfriend, ex-boyfriend's friend, my cousin, my brother's friend, another ex-boyfriend. I know everyone I'm swiping through. So it gets like really frustrating. It's like, I want to meet somebody new that doesn't know me and I don't know them. That's the hardest thing in Newfoundland. And then, Calgary. So I've only been single for 2 months. This is new to me, but I made a Hinge profile. So we're going to find out.
Yeah, maybe this will be a stay tuned.
Yeah, stay tuned. I have higher hopes for Calgary than what I heard about dating in Toronto. I think there's a lot of nice men in Calgary. I think there's going to be a lot of men that are, driven like me, corporate guys. Like, I think I'm going to find dating fun here. I hope.
Yeah.
I hope so. We'll see. Stay tuned. Ask me in 6 months.
Stay tuned for that one. Yeah. Because I know if you asked about here, we usually just say that it's small.
Yeah.
It's people you already know, people you've already dated, people your friends have dated.
Mm-hmm.
So I guess the population is just a huge difference in general.
I think the population, it is. I mean, Newfoundland's realistically, St. John's and the surrounding areas, what is it, 200,000 people? Maybe? Like, of course you're going to know most people on the dating apps. Of course you're going to know people at your favorite bars, right? It's just so tiny. I only just made my Hinge profile here in Calgary and I was swiping through and I've swiped through hundreds of people and I recognized one guy that I met at a party. That's it. These people, I don't know any of them. Calgary's big enough that you don't know everyone. But smaller than Toronto, so we'll see.
Yeah. Yeah, because I think here sometimes there are great guys here, obviously. Like, I have met a couple, and they just haven't been for me. But sometimes you can't help but wonder, am I just seeing this person because there's not really anyone else here?
Yeah, no, exactly. I found it really hard to date when I was in Newfoundland. It was a struggle, and I have a guy friend actually that just recently moved home to Newfoundland, and he's finding it the same, like it's the same from the guy's perspective. He's like ready to settle down, would like to have a girlfriend, and finding it very hard to do so.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Maybe I should talk to him because I would love to know. I mean, I want to bring a couple different guys on the show, whoever is out there and would like to talk to me, because obviously I can only speak on my own experience, which is as a young woman talking to men,
Yeah.
you know? And yeah, I would just like to hear what they think. It's just so interesting to me. It's so interesting, like, what a lower population can do
It
and
changes
affect
it
how
all,
everyone
right?
thinks.
And especially, I think it's worse when you're a very outgoing social person, because think of you and I, like, we spend so much time socializing in St. John's and at all the different bars. It almost feels like you already know everyone. So it's like, how am I going to meet anyone new? I've already been going out for, what, like 6, 7 years, however many years we've been like going to George Street and stuff.
Right.
I feel like I know everyone. I'm sure there's people we haven't met that aren't like at the bars and stuff, but yeah, the lower population makes it difficult.
Yeah.
And it makes it weird too. It can create some weird situations where I could run into someone at a bar, like let's say I run into a man at Greensleeves and I'm hitting it off, and then I tell you guys, and then someone's like, oh, he was in my Instagram DMs yesterday, like, and it's like, oh, what the heck, like he's talking to my friend, or you're like, oh yeah, you know, I went on a date with him 2 months ago. Yeah. It's like, oh, and that doesn't always matter. Like, of course you can go on a date with someone, I can date them, like that's okay, but it's just such a small dating pool.
Yeah, because it's not like we're not doing that either, but I find women tend to focus more so on one person than to be talking to a lot of different ones at the same time.
Yeah, I'm like that.
Sometimes. I'm like that too. I can't keep track. And I have like a sense of guilt, even if I'm just getting to know someone, like I feel guilty talking or going on a date with someone else because I'm just like,
yeah, me too. Which is interesting because, you know, when I lived in Toronto, my friends that were from Toronto, they would date multiple people at once, and that's very normalized, but it never was in my mind. In particular, one of my best friends in Toronto, she would go on 4 different dates in a week. Like, she was getting dinner bought for her every night of the week. And then she'd like actively pursue like all of these guys, and then eventually it'd be like, oh no, I actually really like guy number 3 or whatever. But I'm like, yeah. I need to work myself up to do 1 date. How are you doing 4? Like,
yeah,
right? But people do that.
Yeah.
I mean, until you're in a labeled relationship, you can do those
once
things.
You set the boundary and you kind of define it.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, not even define it, but once you set your boundary of like, this is what I want with you.
Yeah. Well, then
if you want it or you don't, then
yeah, then you stop talking to other people. But no, I've never done that. If I'm talking to a guy,
yeah. Meanwhile, we have friends who have been talking to someone and then they're talking to someone else, and then they get called out for doing that, and it's like, well, there was no label here, and it was only like boundaries were set and intentions were laid.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, exactly. But see, that wouldn't even happen in a bigger city most of the time, because if you're talking to 2 guys, guy 1, guy 2, guy 2's never going to know about guy 1. Like, what's the chances? Whereas in St. John's, you go to a bar and it's like, oh, yeah, I was talking to her too.
Yeah. Yeah, it's like it's completely fine. Obviously, well, this is what I was going to say. Like, when like someone who I know was kind of getting a bit of heat for that, she was like, well, isn't the point of dating to get to know people and find out what you like and who's the best fit and, you know, who actually wants you? So that's what it should be.
Yeah, that's what dating is.
I was thinking about this earlier too, like just what we were going to talk about, and I was looking through my fake Instagram because obviously we post, like I make a couple posts there, and I was like, I can probably find a funny story of like some night we went out.
Yeah.
And I couldn't really think of anything, but I came across a screenshot of something my aunt said to me because I was telling her that like another talking stage had failed. This is like a year ago maybe, and she said, well, Nanny Ozon used to always say, you need to kiss a bunch of frogs before you find a prince.
Yes.
And at that point, and like sometimes you're like, yeah, that's a hopeful way to look at it.
Yeah.
But at that time I was like, did Nanny Ozon say how many? Because this is getting really hard.
Yeah, Nanny, how many do I have to give?
Exactly how many? Like, I'm sorry, you were married to my grandfather by the time you were like 20. So
yeah, like, yeah.
Add an extra 7 years of frogs on there. That's where I'm at.
I've met a lot of frogs. Yeah. Oh, that's hilarious.
Yeah, and I mean, I think the way we look at it now is very much like getting to know people, seeing if you want anything with them. And even if, like, there's people who you just want to go on a couple dates with and then that's it. And, you know, it's not going to go anywhere serious. And if people say to you, like, I'm not interested or thanks anyways or whatever, I think you and me right now are very different than how we would react to that when we first met 4 years ago.
Oh my God, yes. It's funny you say that. So yesterday, I was talking with my leader at work about when we face hardships and how we deal with it and how we get better at it as we get older and all these things, right? And I was telling her how the heartbreak I referenced earlier, like I literally thought I was going to die. Like my family, my friends were concerned, like, why are you so upset over this? And I said to her, at the time, it was so bad, and now I'm so glad it happened because I think it gave me the strength and the tools to be able to face anything else that I'm ever going to face in my life. And that might sound so cheesy, but having your heart ripped out and stomped on at a young age is a good thing. And I think everyone should have their heart broken because you then are better equipped for anything else that happens. So I remember vowing to myself after that, when I finally saw the light and was better off, I'm like, no man or a person, anyone ever, is going to make me feel the way that I felt during that. I will never be there again, ever. So now, if you don't want me, I don't want you either. I don't care.
Yeah.
Like, and I want to stick to that. There's been times in the last, I guess it's been 4 years, since we met. There's been times in the 4 years where I can feel myself almost shrink back to that and be a little bit upset when like a talking stage fails and get a little too consumed with it. And then I have to be like, no, like, we're not doing this again.
Yeah.
So now, if I go on a few dates and the person doesn't want me, I don't care. Clearly, you're not the one.
Yeah, exactly. And like, it sounds like such a simple outlook to have, but when you're in your early 20s, it's not. It feels like the world is ending.
It actually feels like the world is ending.
Or you second guess yourself all the time and you're like, well, what's wrong with me?
I'm the problem.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But then as you get older and you learn that, like, I've said no to people who there's absolutely nothing wrong with them. It's just not there.
There have been great guys in the last 4 years that honestly would probably be exactly what I would want in a life partner. But at the time I was just like, no, I'm not into it. They were probably like, why doesn't Allison like me? But I don't know why I didn't want to do it. They didn't do anything, right?
Yeah.
That's actually... And
so now we don't take it as personal when someone does the same to us.
Exactly.
And that's on experience.
That is experience.
And that's on growth.
Growth.
So one last thing on that. I actually heard something, or I read this. I don't know where I heard it. Maybe it was on another podcast. But they said one person's fuckboy is another person's fiance.
Yes.
And yeah, I think like years ago, like what we were just talking about, we would have thought that someone was immature or this, that, and whatever, and would have like had a dislike for them or would have just been like, he's dumb. But we've all done dumb things and made some bad choices, and we still see ourselves as like someone's partner someday. So I think it's a much more optimistic way of looking at it.
Mm-hmm, totally.
Because then when we, like, I mean, obviously there's a lot of people that we used to complain about and people who did treat us badly. But, I mean, how many good things came from that?
Well, exactly.
Like, from those bad situations and, like, things that we now laugh about.
Yeah, I mean, things that have hurt us from men in the past are now just funny. And, I mean, sometimes people are mean and they suck and they'll probably always be not great partners, but there are times when you just meet someone and they're going through something, you know, in their own lives, or they're just not ready for what you're ready for, but they'll be a great husband and a great dad and a great everything someday. It's just not you, and that's okay. And I think some of the people I dated in the past are probably, you know, great partners now, and some I'm glad they're not my partner, but you know.
Yeah.
Thank you for breaking my heart.
Thank you, next.
Yes, literally. But no, it's not all bad. Like, I'm sure some guys think that I wasn't great as a a girlfriend or a partner. So, and it's true. I probably wasn't.
Yeah, and me at different times, same thing. Depending on when you ran into me, at what time in my life.
Oh my God. Well, I feel like you grow and learn so much. And as cheesy as it sounds, like you end up being a totally different person sometimes. Sometimes I look back on who I was in, I don't know, 2016, and I'm like, you're an asshole. Yeah. So if you only
or
knew
just
me
what
then,
were you doing?
Yeah.
And what were you wearing?
I know. What were you wearing? So funny. At the time, it was probably stylish. But, I mean, I think most people are just doing the best they can with what they know and whatever they're facing at that time. So it's good to not regret how you acted in the past.
Yeah. And I think it's good now that we've gone through all that, because now we're much more equipped when we do find somebody.
Yeah. I remember saying to one of my friends after a breakup, like, oh my God, I'm just so mortified by how I acted. And she was like, yeah, but when you get your next boyfriend, he's going to be like, whoa, how are you so calm, cool, and collected? And it's like, oh, I don't know, therapy?
Yeah. Yeah. It was not overnight.
You got to put in that work.
Yeah, that's how I feel. I mean, yeah, 2020 was a roller coaster for me for many reasons.
Yeah.
And yeah, like depending on when you saw me or when you met me, you'd probably be like, wow, she's going through it. Or other times you'd be like, wow, she has all of it going for her, like so up and down. But yeah, I think it's funny that like we both started out kind of similar in that way, and now we're so, what's the word?
Feeling good.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, whenever anything bad happens now, I think I deal with it a lot better, so.
Yeah. And I mean, kind of like going back to stepping out of your comfort zone, I don't think I've ever asked you this, but you have been writing for a long time. Like, I know that you've journaled and stuff like that for a long time, but you do have like some blog posts up and articles that like CBC has shared. So how did that happen? Or I guess, why did you start writing, first of all?
So when I was in, I think it was grade 12, I decided to keep a journal of what I did every single day of my grade 12 year so I could later read it. I graduated in 2013, and I read it in 2020 when I was home during the pandemic, which was fun. So I started writing that way, just journaling all the time. That turned into journaling longer term. And then when I started traveling a bit, I wanted to be documenting it. So when I traveled Europe in 2018, after I graduated university, I was writing in my journal every night. And then eventually I was like, I think I'm actually pretty good at this, like with putting my thoughts into words on paper. Mm-hmm. I'm going to do it electronically and like share it. I think it's pretty good. So I started sharing travel stuff and started to get some attention. And then I wrote about leaving Newfoundland, and then it ended up turning into more of a wellness, self-care sort of blog. So I was writing about all kinds of things I was going through. And on one of our favorite podcasts, Girls Gotta Eat, I mean, anyone or most girls listening to your podcast are probably like, hell yeah, I love Girls Gotta Eat. They're awesome. But I know that one thing they always ask all their guest speakers is, what gives you the right? So if someone's like, I'm I don't know, whatever kind of therapist, or I'm an expert at this, it's like, well, why? Like, why you? What gives you the right to do this? And so sometimes when I would be writing a lot of these wellness, self-care advice sort of blogs, I'm like, what gives me the right to be saying this? I'm like a 25-year-old girl at the time, or 24, whatever, like living a pretty good life. Like, what gives me the right to be posting all these things? But I actually think in my young life, I'm only 26 now, I've had a lot of like really good life experiences, work-wise, living in different provinces, living on my own, the heartbreaks, the whatever, like struggling mentally. Like, I've had a lot of really good life experiences in a short amount of time, and I've traveled pretty well. I'm pretty well traveled. And I just thought, like, yeah, I do have a right to be saying these things. Like, I have experience and I want to share it with other people. So, one that I love to do is every year on my birthday, I write what I've learned in the last year. So I did like 25 things I've learned. Actually, that one was 25 things I've learned in the first 25 years of my life. And then I did 26 things I've learned since my 25th birthday. So now in July, I'll probably write a 27 one. But yeah, so then I recently lost my grandmother to COVID back in January, and I journaled a lot. And I was reading that this morning, actually. She passed away on January 16th, and every day after that I would journal how I was feeling and what had happened and all that. And then eventually I put that into a blog and talked about how I was grieving the loss of somebody who was such a big part of my life. But I was in Calgary and she was in Newfoundland, and I couldn't be home because of COVID restrictions. So I shared that, and that one started to get a lot of attention because I think it was really resonating with people. Grief resonates with a lot of people. COVID is a big topic for a lot of people. And being able to put a face to someone that lost their life to COVID, I think that was big. So it was getting the most views I'd ever had. And then, I sent that one to CBC and it got posted. I wrote another one about living in Newfoundland during the pandemic. CBC shared that. So my grandfather's a writer. He's always written. He wrote for newspapers for years, and he actually writes for CBC now too. I think it's just kind of in my blood, but I think I'm pretty good at putting what I'm thinking and what other people are feeling into words. And I go through phases of writing. I'll write a lot, and then I won't share anything for a few months, but I hope I can start to get a little more consistent with my writing.
Yeah, I think I was inspired by your birthday post, because I think not long after that, actually, I'm not sure the timeline, because the whole year that I was 25, I kept in my notes app advice that I had gotten from people. And that's kind of what inspired me to ask everyone for advice at the end of all these episodes, was because I would go up to random people at parties, at bars, on trips, everywhere, and just say, what would you tell your 25-year-old self?
Yeah.
And that kind of inspired me to write my first blog post.
Yes.
But I didn't write very many. I just realized it wasn't my thing.
Which is fair.
And the thing I had to share was mostly that. And then there was a couple things after, but it wasn't my thing. And I didn't enjoy doing it that much. It was only when a certain thought came to my head. And then the more I thought about it, the more someone suggested doing a podcast. And that's kind of how that happened for me. Yeah. So
which is super cool.
My podcasting is your writing.
Absolutely. I think it's an outlet to, share thoughts, share experiences, and there's all kinds of different ways we can do that.
Yeah.
It sounds so cheesy, but I was just thinking we both have careers. We're both business women, have professional careers, but I think it's so cool to have a passion in just wanting to share and help and just make the world a better place. It sounds so cheesy, but I just love that in my spare time I can write something and it impacts somebody else. I have so many people write me about my blogs that it really, changed their perspective on something or helped them get through a hardship. I think it's so cool to want to do that. So whether it's a blog or an Instagram caption or a story or a podcast or a vlog or whatever you do, I just think it's so cool to just be trying to share advice, because we're all just trying to figure it out. Day in, day out, we're just trying to do our best,
Yeah, and there's so many people that I follow and different podcasts that I listen to. Obviously, Girls Gotta Eat is one. And where you just feel so validated listening to it. So that's kind of my hope, is that it resonates with people and, it validates how some people feel. Yeah,
it's just knowing other people are going through what you're going through. I think something I've learned recently is, there's so many people in the world, but realistically, we're not all that different. Most people have their heart broken. Everyone will grieve the loss of, a grandparent, a parent, whatever, right? Everyone goes through all these same things. So I just think it's really great to be able to put your experiences out into the world and validate other people. Give them, people to learn from. Just regular people. So you're not just relying on celebrities' Instagrams and things like that. It's better to learn from people like you. I used to be almost a little skeptical and insecure of posting too often or oversharing on social media. But now, I will make 15 Instagram stories in a day. I will post the longest caption you've ever seen in your life if I think it's something that might help one other person. So, that's why I was so open to talk on here.
It's kind of like what we were talking about earlier, just how your views on relationships change and you become so much more comfortable in yourself. It kind of happens with every other aspect of your life too, where you just get much more comfortable and you just stop caring. You really just stop caring what other people think, and you just realize that life is too short.
Exactly. And I think it's so empowering. It's just powerful when you get there, because you don't realize in your young 20s or teens or whatever, different timeline for everyone, but you don't realize just how much energy and time you're spending on what other people think. I can't wear that outfit because it's too crazy. It's going to draw attention to me and people are going to make fun of me. I will wear anything now. But when I was 20? I don't know. Probably not. Right?
No. I definitely wore a lot more crop tops.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, they were the thing. Oh, my God. Crop top and shiny leggings. Remember that era?
But I think this whole episode is good for anyone younger listening because, I mean, even no matter what we say and what advice we give, like you almost have to go through those shitty couple years.
Yeah, you do.
To get to this place where you can now like really start your adult life.
Yeah. Yeah, it makes you grow. It feels crappy at the time. It's not fun too.
You almost need to embrace the
suckiness.
Not embrace the hurt, but like
just take it day by day. Like you're gonna figure it out. You're gonna graduate and you're gonna get a great job and you're gonna meet someone. Yeah. Like these things all happen, right?
It's true. They do.
Yeah, but try telling me that 5 years ago.
No, exactly. Oh my God, my last semester of MUN, I was a wreck thinking that I wasn't going to graduate. But what would have been the worst thing if I didn't?
Yeah, you do an extra semester. Who cares? Like, what?
And I was having breakdowns. Like, that is the most mentally unstable I've been. I would cry on a whim, and I'm not like that at all. But that whole last semester was not good. The pressure.
Oh, man. Life.
Yeah. So, I mean, I feel like today is it's kind of a big jam-packed, I don't know. We've given a lot of advice today. Oh. But at the end of all my episodes, I'm going to ask my guests if you have any advice that you usually share to people or something that someone shared with you or something that you've recently learned, like some advice that you want to pass on. Okay. So when you texted me before doing this podcast, you said that you asked people for advice. So I literally wrote a list. Okay. Name something more classic. Anyway, so I went back and looked at some of my favorite blogs I've written, gave it some thought this morning while I was having my coffee, and I wrote out a few that I would tell anyone. So the first one, which we touched on, heartbreak will not kill you. Even though I know it may absolutely feel like it will not kill you. You're going to be okay. Yeah. That's such a big one. I wish I could tell my younger self, and I wish I could tell all the teenagers and early 20s. And, you know, even if you're heartbroken in your 40s, you're going to be okay. That's a big one. Another huge one for me, I love fashion. I love dressing nice. And I really think if you do yourself up in your favorite outfit and put effort into how you look, you're going to feel better. So if you're ever feeling down, wear something you love. And my mom and my grandmother always said to not forget to put lipstick on at the end. So I think if you feel good about how you look, you're going to have a better day. Yeah. What else did I say? Okay. Uncomfortable situations make us grow. We've talked about that all episode. You probably need another glass of water at any point. Whatever you're doing. That is good. You need another glass of water. Good. Go get another glass. We should have told ourselves that a lot of times. Yeah. And speaking of drinking, 2 tequila shots is enough for one night. If you're going to keep shooting, switch to something else. Get peach schnapps. Get Burt Reynolds. You don't need more than 2 shots of tequila. Yeah. We speak from experience on that one. Yeah. I've had far more, and it's not fun. Yeah. Have 2. I love the way tequila makes me feel. But then you can switch to something a little lighter. I had 2 left. One is, I saw this quote one time on Pinterest or somewhere, and it said, life's a party when you realize it is. And I love living by that because I think if we could change our mindset about life to be like, I'm just going to celebrate everything. I finished a work day. I'm going to go grab a beer. Well, not me. I can't drink beer. I'm celiac, but I'm going to get a drink. Like anything, like, oh, I don't know, your friend gets engaged, party. It's Friday, party. You got divorced, party. Like, let's just celebrate life. When I lived home for those 16 months during COVID, we all got a limo for no reason. That is living life as a party. We actually did. It was just January. It was just January. There's no reason. It's like, most people get a limo for, I don't know, like a birthday or a bachelor party or like a wedding day. No, we got one because it was Friday and it was January. Just party. Like, life's fun when you make it fun. This is why we get along so well, because I totally feel the same. Yes. I'm like, it's a good day. The sun is shining. Like, let's just live. Like, let's just live. Right? Like, I think that's such a big one. Life's a party when you realize this. Yeah, I love that. And my last one, because despite how positive I've probably sounded this whole podcast, like 2022 has been incredibly difficult for me. As I mentioned, my grandmother passed from COVID in January, and her and I were very, very close. I lived with her for years. Anyway, when I went back and read a blog that I had written 3 years ago, one of my pieces of advice back then was kiss your grandmother on both cheeks before you leave her house every single time.
And I'm like, well, I knew that even before I lost her, that, oh God, just love your grandparents. Just spend time with them, kiss them, hug them. Like, oh, after losing her, like, all I wish now is that I could just like feel her soft skin or smell like her face cream as I kiss her. So all's fine and dandy to talk about like relationships and drinking and partying, but at the end of the day, love the people you have while you still have them. So go kiss your grandmother.
Yeah. And I think like in my mind, I think that's why I have that opinion to like seize the day. Like it's a good day. No one's hurt. No one's dying. Like when you feel that way, that's why you should go and do things because it's not always going to be that way. And
it's not.
Like I relate to that so much because like my grandmother is 81 and she's like early stage of dementia. And like I know a while ago, like I kind of had the realization that like, oh wow, not everyone has their nan when they're 23, 24, 25. And like how lucky are we that like I can go talk to my nan, like so could you, like as adult women, like it is rare. And yeah, like the piece you wrote about her was so nice and about grief and everything. And even though like I kind of knew how lucky I was, like it does just,
well, I think it kind of like puts things into perspective, and it just reminds you how precious life is. I've noticed in the last few months since I lost her, I call my other two grandparents more often, and I text them. So I have both my grandparents on my dad's side. But I always talk to them a lot, but now it's more of a priority. It's like, no, don't wait a full week before you reach out. Like take 20 minutes, FaceTime them, tell them what you did today. Yeah, because they won't always be there. So, not to end on a down note, but I think live large and be present and seize today now while you can. I mean, just this past week, anyone that follows me on social media, a lot of people listening to this probably do, but you know that WestJet lost my carry-on this week, and I'm having like a really hard week, but because there was a lot of valuable and high dollar value things in that and sentimental things in that bag, and they can't find it. It's been 4 days. I've been really upset about it, but yesterday when I talked to my leader at work, like she was really saying like, you know, this really sucks. You lost a Gucci bag and you lost jewelry and you lost all this nice clothing. Like it really sucks. But at the end of the day, it's materialistic things, and we don't need to be attached to these materialistic things. Like you are still okay. You're still at work today. Like life's all right. And so that helped my perspective. And then my dad texted me and he was like, I know this really, really sucks. You could be sick. You could like somebody else close to you could pass away. Like it's just stuff. At the end of the day, it's just stuff. So anyways, that's all kind of cheesy and deep, but but I mean,
this is like a glimpse into mine and your like conversations after like a couple glasses of wine or a couple gin sodas.
Oh my God, yes. And some tequila. Only two.
Yeah. But this is like why I want to do this and talk to my friends, because we do have such good conversations that I think either like comfort or motivate, and they should be documented.
Absolutely.
Not at 3 a.m. when they're happening.
No.
But when we're a little more.
That's why we're doing it at 11 a.m. in Calgary.
Yeah, exactly. Well, thank you so much for talking to me today.
Of course.
It's always nice talking to you.
I could talk all day.
I know. Well, this is why you're going to come back, because there's just so much we can talk about. I don't know if you want to share where people can find your blog.
Yes. So my Instagram, it's just my full name, Allison Stoodley. I still have a website with a lot of my blog posts on it. It's adventuringwithallison.com, and anything I've written for CBC is on the CBC Newfoundland page.
I love it.
Love it.
I love it. I love you.
Love you. This is so fun. I'm so glad you're doing this.
Thank you. I'm so happy that I have a bunch of you supporting me doing it.
Oh my God, of course.
I was going to say too, like, you're one of my favorite people to get banned from bars with.
I love getting banned from bars.
I love it.
I'm not allowed back? Fine.
Amazing.
Oh, that's a good story.
Okay, thanks to Allison for being here today. Listening to this back, I'm so proud of how far both of us have come in terms of how we think about relationships and how much more confident and comfortable we are in ourselves. I know that 18, 19, 20 until like 26, 27 might not seem like that much of a difference. And I know that we're still both very young and still have a lot of learning and adulting to do, but I just think it's comforting that if you can change so much in that amount of time, I mean, we will just be doing perfect by the time we reach our 40s. And I know that this change and growth and all that doesn't just happen for single women in their 20s. It's different times for everyone and different experiences bring it on. We just have the shared experience of what that's like and how going through that as young women has affected us. So, Allison, you're welcome back anytime. I know that this is not going to be her first and only time on this show. And I just want to end off by saying that obviously both of our experiences are as straight women, women dealing with men. And I know that there are so many other types of relationships out there. I just feel like I personally cannot speak about that. So hopefully in the future, I'll have some more guests on who can kind of talk about all the other dynamics that are going on and the differences between provinces and things like that. So yeah, stay tuned for that in the future. And again, if you know anyone who runs a local business or organization or has some cool experiences to share, or you do, let me know. You can find me on Instagram at Newfound Happy Hour, and you can listen on Apple Podcasts and Spotify. Thanks for listening, everyone. See you next time.